In high school, she was always a target for ridicule and bullying, but no one had any idea what secret power she was hiding. Margaret White is a religious fanatic who sees sin in everything, especially when it comes to women, their bodies, and sex. At the beginning of the movie, we see her lying on a bloodied bed, screaming in pain and begging God to forgive her sins.
You, Lord, I'm dying.
She's so disconnected from the real world that she thinks she's dying of cancer, when in reality, she's giving birth. When the pain finally subsides, she looks between her legs and freezes in shock. There's a newborn baby girl. Margaret is convinced the child is the result of the sin she committed with her ex-husband. She grabs a pair of scissors, ready to kill the baby, but can't bring herself to do it. The girl is later named Carrie. Over the years, Margaret imposes her religious beliefs on Carrie and gives her no freedom, forbidding her from making friends, talking to boys, and hardly allowing her to go to school. When Carrie turns 16, children's rights activists force Margaret to let her attend school. But because of Carrie's introverted and antisocial nature, she's constantly mocked. She doesn't talk to her classmates and is shocked when she sees exposed body parts or couples kissing. The idea of dating is completely foreign to her. One day, while playing water volleyball, Carrie accidentally hits the popular girl Sue in the head. Sue's friend Chris starts mocking Carrie, and everyone laughs. After class, they go to the locker room to change, and Carrie gets her first period. She panics no one ever taught her about it. Seeing blood running down her legs, she thinks she's dying of some disease. She runs around begging the girls for help, but Chris laughs at her ignorance. Soon, the other girls join in, throwing tampons at her and filming her while she cries. Sue feels sorry for Carrie, but is too scared of being ostracized to step in. The chaos only stops when the gym teacher, Miss Desjardins, arrives. Carrie continues screaming and panicking even after the girls disperse. To calm her down, the teacher even slaps her. When the girls leave, Carrie angrily stares at a light bulb which suddenly shatters. When the principal hears about the incident, he allows Miss Desjardins to punish the bullies as she sees fit and asks Carrie to calm down because they've called her mother. But the thought of her mother finding out about her period terrifies her even more. She starts hyperventilating, and mysteriously, a water cooler in the room breaks. Soon, Margaret comes to pick Carrie up from school and sees Chris kissing her boyfriend. She doesn't want spoiled kids influencing her daughter and prays for God to show them the right path. On the way home, Carrie asks why her mother never taught her about periods. But Margaret doesn't answer. Before getting out of the car, a neighbor boy calls Carrie,
Crazy Carrie, crazy Carrie!
And she just stares at him. He falls off his bike. Strange things like this have been happening to her for months, and she doesn't understand why. At home, Margaret bangs her head against the wall, apologizing to God for giving birth to a daughter who will one day sin like she did. She even invents fake Bible verses to convince Carrie that bleeding during her period is a sin. Carrie realizes her mother is lying because Miss Desjardins had already explained everything about menstruation. She tells her mother that it's normal and happens to every girl. After Carrie talks back to her, Margaret hits her on the head with a Bible and locks her in a small praying closet, saying she'll only let her out once she asks God for forgiveness. Carrie screams in anger, causing the door to crack slightly. She then notices a statue of Jesus, which starts bleeding. Meanwhile, Sue and her boyfriend Tommy are sitting in his Jeep, and at his request, they have sex. After getting dressed, Sue admits she feels guilty for not helping Carrie in the locker room. Unlike her, Chris and her boyfriend Billy feel no remorse at all, even though Chris initiated the bullying. To humiliate Carrie even more, Chris uploads the video of the incident online. At home, Margaret calmly sews clothes and sings, as if she's completely forgotten what happened with her daughter earlier. She eventually lets Carrie out of the closet after confirming that she prayed. The next day at school, Miss Desjardins gathers Chris, Sue, and all the other girls involved in the bullying. As punishment, they have to do suicide runs for an hour every day for a week. Anyone who refuses will be barred from attending prom. Chris throws a fit, calling it bullshit, and challenges the teacher. An enraged Miss Desjardins suspends her and revokes her prom privileges. Chris tries to rally the other girls, but no one supports her, not even Sue. Meanwhile, the entire school has already seen the video of Carrie being bullied. They mock her and even spray graffiti on her locker that reads, "Carrie White eats shit." Humiliated and furious, she goes to the bathroom and focuses on a mirror which shatters under her gaze. Carrie begins to realize she has psychokinetic powers, meaning she can move objects and people with her mind. To learn more, she goes to the library and reads books on psychokinesis. She concludes that, like menstruation, having such a power is normal for some people. In her next class, she's called to the front to read a poem. Afterward, Tommy, Sue's boyfriend, mutters an insult under his breath, but when asked to speak louder, he compliments her poem. Carrie is shocked. It's the first time a boy has genuinely praised her. Meanwhile, Chris calls her lawyer father to try to overturn her prom ban. She plays the victim, accusing Miss Desjardins of verbal abuse. But when the teacher asks for Chris's phone with the video as evidence, she refuses, proving her guilt. That night, Carrie experiments with her powers, levitating books in her bed. Margaret hears the noise and comes upstairs with a knife, but Carrie pretends to be asleep, so Margaret puts it down. The next day, Sue asks Tommy to invite Carrie to prom. She believes Carrie deserves one night of fun and is willing to skip her own prom. Tommy initially wants to go with Sue, but after repeated insistence, he agrees and asks Carrie. Surprised, Carrie thinks he's joking and runs away. Later, Miss Desjardins finds her crying in the locker room and supports her, warning Sue and Tommy not to humiliate her. After school, Tommy drives to Carrie's house, which terrifies her. She doesn't want her mother to know she talks to boys. He says he'll leave only if she agrees to go to prom. She agrees on the condition that he brings her home by 10:30 p.m. She's thrilled to finally feel like a normal teenager. To prepare for prom, Carrie goes shopping, but none of the dresses fit her budget. Instead, she buys fabric and sews one herself. Chris sees this and flies into a rage, planning a prank for prom. When Carrie returns home, Margaret greets her angrily. Carrie tells her she's going to prom, and Margaret says she won't allow it. Enraged, Carrie starts levitating objects to release her anger, while Margaret prays, believing the devil has taken over her daughter. Carrie tells Margaret to be quiet, but she prays even louder. Enraged, Carrie makes her mother levitate, and Margaret finally falls silent. After a while, Carrie lets her down, declaring that the conversation is over. Meanwhile, Chris and Billy, along with their friends, are on a farm collecting pig's blood, and then they break into the school gym, which is also the prom venue, preparing a bucket of blood to dump on Carrie when she's on stage. On prom night, Carrie gets ready and applies light makeup. She looks stunning but is very nervous. Margaret insists she dress modestly, and Carrie quietly complies. Her mother warns her again that everyone will laugh at her, only increasing her anxiety. Carrie locks Margaret in the praying closet and heads to prom. Tommy is speechless when he sees her. They walk in hand. Tommy introduces her to his friends, and Miss Desjardins compliments her dress and tells her to have fun. Carrie gradually relaxes and feels more confident around Tommy. They slow dance, and the night seems perfect. But then Chris and Billy break into the gym. They rigged the prom king and queen election to ensure Carrie and Tommy win, planning to dump the bucket of blood on her when they go on stage. Chris texts Sue about the plan, and a horrified Sue rushes to the prom. However, Miss Desjardins locks her in a room, thinking she's trying to ruin the moment. When Tommy and Carrie step on stage, Chris pulls the rope, the bucket falls on Carrie, and at the same time, a video from the day Carrie got her first period plays. The crowd laughs, and Miss Desjardins tries to help, but Carrie loses control, pushes the teacher without touching her, shocking everyone. The bucket falls on Tommy, killing him instantly. Carrie fully loses control of her powers. She screams, pushing the crowd away, locks all the doors and windows, and starts throwing tables and chairs, killing people. She pins some girls to the floor so they are trampled. She breaks the stage lights and electrical wires, setting the gym on fire. Miss Desjardins is safely placed on the stage, while Carrie destroys the rest of the crowd. Carrie then flies outside looking for Billy and Chris. They try to escape in a car, but Carrie stops it with her mind, instantly killing Billy. Chris tries again, but Carrie launches his car into a gas station, and he dies stuck to the windshield. Back home, Carrie notices Margaret isn't in the praying closet. She baths to clean the blood off herself. Margaret appears, and Carrie hugs her, saying she was right. Everyone laughed at her. Margaret, believing she's being punished for her sins with her husband, stabs Carrie. Carrie tries to save herself, and Margaret chases her through the kitchen. When Margaret is about to strike again, Carrie uses her telekinesis, launching sharp objects that crucify her mother. She cries, holding her dying mother and regretting everything. Finally, she destroys the house with her mind. Sue arrives trying to stop Carrie, but sees she's pregnant and stops. Carrie smiles and says it's a girl, sending Sue to safety from the collapsing ceiling. Moments later, Margaret and Carrie die under the rubble. Months later, Sue is in a hospital bed, screaming in pain during childbirth. Suddenly, a bloody hand appears. She wakes up and realizes it was just a nightmare. Her mother comforts her as Sue hyperventilates, thinking she is giving birth to Carrie.